The glittering facade of modern celebrity culture often conceals a far darker and more chaotic reality, where the bright lights of reality television fame give way to the harsh, unforgiving glare of legal battles and domestic turmoil. For years, audiences have tuned in by the millions to watch the carefully curated drama of affluent lifestyles unfolding on screen, treating the interpersonal conflicts of their favorite stars as mere entertainment. However, there comes a moment when the barrier between reality television and actual, consequential reality completely shatters, leaving behind a trail of legal documents, emergency room visits, and shattered relationships. This is precisely the threshold we find ourselves crossing today, as a complex web of allegations, physical altercations, and restraining orders engulfs one of the most prominent figures in contemporary reality entertainment. The deeper one digs into the unfolding narrative, the more apparent it becomes that what began as a high-profile romance has dissolved into a toxic cycle of mutual recriminations, police interventions, and serious physical injuries that are now being picked apart in the court of law. Before we dive into the intricate details of this shocking escalation, the multiple arrests, and the dramatic video footage that has sent shockwaves through the entertainment community, please take a brief moment to subscribe to our channel, turn on all notifications, and join our growing community so you never miss an in-depth breakdown of the stories defining modern pop culture, to truly understand how a domestic environment can transform into a legal battlefield. One must examine the volatility that often brews beneath the surface of highly publicized relationships, where the pressures of public scrutiny amplify personal friction to a boiling point. The setting for this latest controversy is an upscale rental residence in Los Angeles, a city synonymous with ambition, fame, and the perpetual desire to maintain a flawless public image. Yet, behind closed doors, this home became the staging ground for an extraordinary series of events that would ultimately require the intervention of local law enforcement, emergency medical personnel, and the superior court system. In the high-stakes world of entertainment, reputations are built over decades but can be severely tested in a single evening. And the boundaries between victim and aggressor often become blurred when multiple conflicting accounts of a single night emerge. The public has grown accustomed to dramatic confrontations on their television screens, but the gravity of what occurred in this specific household extends far beyond the realm of scripted arguments or produced reality segments. It involves allegations of severe bodily harm, property damage, and a profound breakdown of trust that has irrevocably severed a romantic partnership, drawing in not just the couple themselves, but family members who sought to intervene, only to find themselves deeply entangled in the fallout. As the legal machinery begins to turn, the documentation filed in the state of California paints a vivid and deeply unsettling picture of the events that transpired during the early summer weeks, exposing a timeline fraught with escalating tension. What makes this particular situation so captivating, yet deeply concerning, is the sheer velocity at which the relationship disintegrated, transforming from a public romance into a maze of cross-filed restraining orders and criminal charges. In any high-profile dispute, the truth often becomes a casualty of perspective, with each participating party offering a radically different interpretation of the exact same sequence of events. On one side, we find claims of desperate self-defense and structural barricades within a home, while on the other side, allegations of overwhelming physical force and implicit threats of firearms are levied with equal ferocity. This juxtaposition of narratives creates a dense legal thicket that judges must now navigate, as the temporary protections granted by the court signal that the immediate situation was deemed volatile enough to warrant judicial separation. The involvement of family members introduces a tribal element to the dispute, where parental protective instincts clash directly with the defensive maneuvers of a celebrity trying to protect both his physical safety and his crumbling domestic sanctuary. The intrigue deepens as we analyze the broader implications of these filings, which suggests that the climax of this dispute was not an isolated incident, but rather the culmination of a recurring pattern of behavior that had been building for a significant period. When a domestic relationship reaches the point where multiple individuals are seeking legal protection from one another simultaneously, it reveals an environment that had become entirely unsustainable and fundamentally dangerous for everyone involved. The public fascination with these events is driven not just by the celebrity status of the central figure, but by the universal human drama of a spectacular falling out, captured in real time through legal records and digital footprints. Each detail that emerges from the court documents adds a new layer of complexity, challenging the initial assumptions made by fans and onlookers who have followed these individuals' lives through the media. As we prepare to dissect the specific, harrowing claims made by each side, the role of modern technology in documenting these private crises becomes central, transforming what might have been a hidden domestic dispute into a highly visible, heavily scrutinized public record that will undoubtedly have lasting consequences for all the lives it touches. The explosive core of this unfolding crisis centers on a single, highly chaotic evening that completely shattered the shared living arrangement and resulted in a flurry of emergency legal actions. According to official court documents obtained from the Los Angeles legal system, the central figure in this storm, 43-year-old reality television personality Tom Sandoval, found himself in an escalating physical confrontation that has now completely terminated his relationship with his ex-girlfriend, Victoria Lee Robinson. The tension reached its absolute zenith on the night of June 3rd inside the Los Angeles rental home where the couple had been residing alongside Victoria's father, Will Robinson. In his initial legal filings, Sandoval painted a harrowing picture of a domestic environment that had devolved into absolute violence, claiming that a massive verbal argument erupted and quickly spun out of control. Sandoval alleged in his sworn statement that the situation became so volatile that he was forced to flee the main living areas of the house and seek physical refuge in a spare bedroom. According to his account, he literally had to barricade himself inside the room to escape the escalating anger of his partner and her father. But the physical barriers proved insufficient to halt the onslaught. The documentation reveals that Sandoval claimed Will Robinson pursued him to the spare bedroom and, in a fit of rage, violently struck the door, punching an approximate 12-inch hole straight through the wood where Sandoval was attempting to hide. The reality star further alleged that Victoria Lee Robinson physically assaulted him during this same sequence of events, claiming she punched him directly in the face, which resulted in significant visible injuries. In the paperwork, the former Vanderpump Rules cast member stated that he sustained a severe bruise near his temple and along his eyebrow ridge, and that he was left bleeding directly from both his ear and his neck as a result of being struck that night. The physical fallout was apparently severe enough that Sandoval reported experiencing persistently blurry vision and intense pain inside his mouth, a condition that ultimately compelled him to visit a local hospital emergency room to be medically evaluated and treated for his injuries. Following this chaotic sequence of events, law enforcement intervened, and Victoria Lee Robinson was officially arrested on charges of domestic violence. She was processed by local authorities and released on bond later that same day, while simultaneously being served with a temporary restraining order that legally forced her to maintain her distance from Sandoval. However, the narrative took an even more dramatic turn when Victoria's father, Will Robinson, filed a comprehensive counter-restraining order against Sandoval, presenting a radically different and equally terrifying version of the exact same night. In his counterfiling, Will Robinson claimed that it was actually Sandoval who became the primary physical aggressor during what he described as a heated confrontation argument. The father asserted that the reality television star completely overpowered his daughter during the dispute on the outdoor deck of the property. When Will Robinson attempted to step in to intervene and protect his daughter, he claims that Sandoval forcefully shoved him backward with enough momentum to send him crashing directly into a stone lava rock fire pit that was fully lit at the time. The impact, according to the father's legal petition, caused severe and debilitating bodily harm. Will Robinson documented an extensive list of traumatic injuries resulting from the fall, including a broken thumb, a broken elbow, a ruptured spinal disc, and a deep laceration on his heel. The gravity of these allegations introduces a profound level of criminal and civil tension, as both men are now claiming to be the true victim of an unprovoked physical assault within the exact same domestic space. Adding an even darker layer to the father's legal petition is the explicit allegation that after shoving him into the burning pit, Sandoval re-entered the residence and began making highly alarming statements regarding firearms. Will Robinson explicitly wrote in his filing that the reality star began talking about himself having a gun, a detail that significantly heightened the sense of immediate danger and dread felt by the family inside the home. The father also noted that this was far from an isolated incident of aggression, stating under oath that to his knowledge, This specific altercation marked the fifth time that Sandoval had become physically violent during a confrontation with his daughter. Will Robinson argued passionately in his paperwork that a strict civil harassment restraining order is absolutely necessary to guarantee his safety and the safety of his daughter, requesting that Sandoval be legally ordered to remain at least 100 feet away from their persons, their vehicles, and their current places of residence. He claimed that even after the massive June 3rd falling out, Sandoval has repeatedly returned to the Los Angeles rental property, forcing the family to call the police on multiple occasions because the reality star was allegedly starting trouble and disrupting the peace. The entire controversy was thrust into the public eye with undeniable force when actual video footage of the altercation surfaced on the internet, specifically through the social media platform Reddit, providing a visceral visual record of the moments leading up to the physical clash. The leaked clip, which was originally obtained and reported on by major entertainment news outlets, matches the June 3rd timeline and shows an incredibly agitated Sandoval engaging in a tense standoff with Victoria. In the video, Sandoval can be clearly seen and heard demanding to know if she is recording him with her mobile device, asking her pointedly, "Are you recording me right now?" before he aggressively lunges forward in an attempt to snatch the cell phone directly out of her hands. It is at this exact moment that Will Robinson steps into the frame to physically intervene and separate the couple. The footage then shows Sandoval seemingly pushing the father backward directly toward the glowing lit fireplace situated on the deck. Immediately following the push, Sandoval dashes away from the scene and runs straight back into the house, with a visibly furious Will Robinson following closely behind him into the interior of the home. The audio captured in the remainder of the video recording paints a picture of absolute chaos and auditory violence inside the structure. The moment the men cross the threshold into the house, loud echoing crashing sounds can be heard radiating from within, indicating an immediate and violent destruction of property or a continuation of the physical struggle. Victoria is seen rushing frantically into the house behind them, screaming the word "no" in total desperation as she attempts to break up the fight. Seconds later, the father's voice can be heard booming from inside the residence, shouting in absolute anger that Sandoval had thrown him into the fucking fire pit, followed by explicit verbal threats directed at the reality star. This video evidence has become the central pillar of public scrutiny, as it offers a raw, unedited glimpse into a private nightmare that has now completely destroyed a high-profile romance and left both sides deeply battered, legally compromised, and trapped in a vicious cycle of mutual court-ordered restrictions that are set to culminate in a massive consolidated hearing later this summer. The revelation of the surveillance video has completely altered the public trajectory of this case, transforming what initially appeared to be a straightforward matter of a homeowner defending himself into a highly complex, layered legal dispute where both sides bear visible physical injuries and deeply conflicting accounts of the exact sequence of events. To fully comprehend the gravity of this collapse, one must examine the background of the individuals involved and the history of a relationship that had been quietly fracturing long before the explosive confrontation on June 3rd. Tom Sandoval, who rose to immense international notoriety as a central figure on the long-running Bravo reality series Vanderpump Rules and more recently showcased his strategic persona on the competition show The Traitors, had been dating the 33-year-old model Victoria Lee Robinson for more than 2 years. To the outside world, the couple frequently projected an image of a serious, deeply committed partnership, with Sandoval even hinting to major media outlets just months prior that they were actively planning to level up their relationship and take major steps toward a permanent future together. However, alternative narratives within the court documents suggest that beneath this glamorous veneer lay a highly volatile domestic dynamic characterized by persistent verbal degradation and escalating emotional instability. Sandoval claimed in his legal petition that he had endured an ongoing cycle of verbal and psychological abuse throughout their 2-year relationship, alleging that his ex-girlfriend routinely insulted, demeaned, and targeted him with highly derogatory language behind closed doors. This friction apparently extended to social media late last year when a series of highly cryptic posts by Victoria sparked widespread breakup rumors among fans, prompting her to issue a public apology on her private platform wherein she claimed her judgment had been clouded by personal trauma and false outside accusations, explicitly stating at the time that Sandoval had done nothing wrong and was actually a highly supportive partner. ExtraT.com is show 1. The transition from online public statements to actual physical altercations represents a tragic escalation that has now permanently upended multiple lives and placed the entire trio under intense judicial scrutiny. The conflicting statements regarding the June 3rd incident highlight how easily a domestic space can become a zone of mutual trauma when interpersonal conflicts are magnified by high stress and underlying volatility. In his comprehensive legal filings, Sandoval emphasized that the abusive behavior had simply reached an intolerable threshold, explaining that he is presently paying the entire financial burden for the Los Angeles rental home while being completely displaced from his own living quarters due to the court orders. He expressed grave concern for his ongoing physical safety and general well-being, arguing that his repeated efforts to maintain domestic peace had been consistently met with hostile, aggressive actions from both Victoria and her father. Conversely, Will Robinson has vehemently disputed this characterization of the evening, using his counterfiling to assert that the district attorney's office has handled the situation with caution for a very specific reason. The father contends that his physical intervention was a direct, instinctive response to seeing Sandoval allegedly overpower his daughter, twist her arm, and aggressively attempt to snatch her mobile device after shouting at them in an intensely threatening manner. According to the father, the rental property was fundamentally his daughter's home, and the entire family was simply trying to survive what he described as a pattern of unpredictable behavior from the reality star, stating that their primary goal now is to keep Sandoval as far away from them as humanly possible to shield themselves from further legal and emotional distress. Times of India on diatimes.com. This intricate legal standoff is further complicated by the deep physical and emotional toll documented by all three participants, with each side presenting medical claims that underscore the sheer violence of the altercation. The reality television star's detailed description of his injuries, including the bleeding from his ear and neck, the severe bruising near his temple, and the persistent mouth pain that necessitated an emergency room evaluation, stands in stark opposition to the severe orthopedic trauma reported by Will Robinson, who continues to undergo medical treatment for a broken elbow, a fractured thumb, a ruptured spinal disc, and a deep laceration on his heel. When medical documentation of this magnitude is introduced into a domestic dispute, the judicial system must look past the public personas of the individuals involved and strictly analyze the physical evidence, the timeline of calls to law enforcement, and the audio-visual recordings captured during the crisis. The fact that the local authorities initially arrested Victoria Lee Robinson on charges of intimate partner battery with physical violence indicates that the responding officers found sufficient probable cause at the scene to warrant an immediate arrest. Yet the subsequent refusal of the father to accept this narrative has ensured that the legal battle will be fiercely contested. This case serves as a stark reminder of the hidden fractures that can exist within high-profile celebrity relationships, demonstrating how quickly a shared life can dissolve into a maze of restraining orders, hospital visits, and public recriminations that are thoroughly dissected by millions of onlookers across the globe. As the entertainment community and legal analysts look ahead, all eyes are firmly fixed on the upcoming consolidated judicial hearing scheduled for July 16th, a critical date when the current temporary restraining orders are set to expire, and a family court judge will evaluate the complete body of evidence from both sides. This hearing will require both Tom Sandoval and the Robinson family to present their full testimonies, medical records, and the complete unedited surveillance footage to determine whether long-term permanent restraining orders are justified to enforce a strict physical separation between the parties. The total dissolution of the romantic partnership, confirmed by Sandoval explicitly identifying Victoria as his ex-girlfriend in the initial court paperwork, marks the definitive end of a highly publicized chapter in his personal life, occurring in the wake of previous highly visible relationship struggles that have played out on international television. For the viewer and the public at large, this situation transcends standard entertainment news, highlighting the profoundly serious nature of domestic volatility and the critical importance of legal mechanisms designed to protect individuals from harm. If you or someone you know is currently experiencing domestic violence, relationship abuse, or physical intimidation, please remember that you are not alone and that immediate confidential support is always available through professional helplines, local community advocacy groups, and law enforcement agencies dedicated to ensuring personal safety and providing vital resources to those navigating a domestic crisis.